Greetings, salutations, happy Thursday, July 9th, 2026. Welcome to Backstage, the daily show for entrepreneurs, founders, visionaries, and builders ready to stop waiting in the wings, looking for quick hits of inspiration, tips, and trends worth knowing, everything you need to craft your story, build influence, and get yourself onto bigger stages. Matt Stone here, and excited to be back with Backstage. I've been out for a bit. Had a family gathering to go to, had a relative, my grandfather passed on, and at the ripe old age of 95, and we had a wonderful gathering for him, and that is why the absence, but we're back in the chair, and fresh off of another client engagement where I was reflecting on the process that I've been using, and I thought maybe it would be helpful to you if you're working on crafting a story, whether it's a sales context or on, anywhere from Zoom meetings, networking events, whatever. There's a few ingredients. I saw a post on LinkedIn today. It was like the six storytelling, not archetypes, but frameworks. And they were like, the Pixar method and this method. And I was like, none of this is useful to you. Because, the hero's journey, it's like they're all variations of the same thing, and they're frameworks. Nobody really is able to, I'm going to use the Pixar framework and then make a story on the fly. I think you need something simpler. And so I want to share a little bit about what I use when I'm trying to figure out where's this story going? What is this story? How do we make a story useful to you? And so first, a little background. So I first learned this framework in the context of feedback. So spending the last decade or so working with leadership teams on, high impact feedback conversations, there were several elements to a successful feedback conversation. And why feedback? Well, ideally, feedback is supposed to inform and inspire someone to do something differently or to keep doing something, to know what it is they're doing that's working. But regardless, it really is to inform, educate, and ultimately inspire behavior. And isn't that what you're looking for? If you're on a stage doing a keynote, you want the audience not just to take it in, you want them to take action. You want them to become better leaders, better employees, better teammates in whatever way is meaningful. So if you're not speaking to inspire action, then what are we really doing, right? So the feedback and storytelling framework, if you will, or elements are ultimately the same thing, okay? So here are the three parts. The first part are the facts, or what we used to call describe. You describe the facts. You set it up. So how we set up facts, and by the way, there are three parts, so I'm going to go through them very, very quickly. The first one being describe, facts. You need to set the stage for the story. You might have a little hook that isn't about facts. It may be, I learned something that blew my mind, in this context, and that hooks people in. But you better get into some facts right quick. Set the stage. Set the stage. Where were you? Or where were the people you're talking about? What's the scene? Set the scene. Now, how you set the scene is influenced by the purpose of the story. So you could change the scene entirely. For the same root story, you could focus on different facts. I'll give you an example. So let's say that you're telling a story about procrastination, and you're describing, that you put off watering some plants in the garden. You may not describe the garden in great detail. You might say, I have a garden, if I water it once a week, all of the plants in the garden, I've got this plant, I've got that plant, and they all basically need water once a week. But if I water less than once a week, then they die. And then you can go into, so last summer I skipped a week because I went to Spain, and and this is what happened, and this is what I learned, and this is how it's applicable to you. Do you see what I'm saying? But if I were to tell a story about diversity, and I'm using the garden as my analogy, I might go into great detail about the diversity of the plants and the fruit trees and the flowers and everything that's planted in my garden, and that none of them are alike, but they all help each other. And then I talk about, how adding in a new plant that's unlike any other plant in there helped the rest of the garden and made it more beautiful and helped the ecosystem. And this is how you build a great team, right? So it just depends on the point of the story as to which facts are relevant. But you got to start with a factual basis to bring people into the room. The thing about the facts is that they really juice your relatability. If you're describing a workplace that someone's never worked in, the facts you offer invite people into the workplace even if they have never worked there. So, for example, if I'm talking about engineering, I worked in engineering at a tech company. Well, if the listener is neither an engineer nor has ever worked in a tech company, maybe they work in healthcare, which is full of tech, right? But not a tech company technically. I don't know why that makes me laugh. Your detail helps people kind of find a connection point. It helps them, it invites them in. So I worked at ABC Technology. I had a boss who was XYZ. We were at the water cooler. Suddenly it's like, oh, okay. Different kind of company that I've worked at, but yeah, I've been in a water cooler. Yeah, my boss was like that too, right? So the factual is very important. The second piece is to appreciate those facts, meaning to evaluate them, to give them meaning. And this is really, in some ways, the most important thing. This is what we add value to. So when I say, okay, these were the facts of what happened. I was hired on this date. This was my boss. This is where I worked. This was the scenario. And the more factual you can make it, the more credible you are as well. Then when you come in and say, this is how I felt about it, this is what happened, and this is how I felt about it, this is the meaning I ascribed to it, this is what it meant to me. I was disgusted by what my colleague did. I was delighted by what my colleague did, and here's why. So now, if someone's already been invited in from the facts, and now you're saying, and they buy into your your scene, and they feel like they can see themselves in it, they're more likely to go along with how you felt about it too. And relate to that, even if they've never, ever worked the way you have and have a completely different discipline. There's a certain human level. So first is describe the facts. Second is appreciate them. Tell what you thought about them, your evaluation, your judgment, if you will. Maybe your learning, the deep insight you had from that. And then we move to the prescription, which is, what does this mean moving forward? What does this mean? How does this impact the way I move forward and the things I do, the way that I operate now and in the future, and what it could mean for you and the way you operate in your future? So those are the three things. It's the past facts. It's how I evaluated them and I evaluate them now, and what it means for the future. And hopefully there's some deep insights in there somewhere. That's really the three elements. If you can get those three, you're helping someone see themselves in the story and see how they might behave differently and in alignment with the insight that you developed. Those are the three. So I'm going to be bringing that back in many, many different forms, because I think this is so critical as we think about telling stories that move people. And that's the business most of us are in at some point. So anyway, I hope that helps. The short form for this is DAP, describe, appreciate, prescribe. That's what we used in feedback. And now I'm seeing it play out in storytelling. It's really, really fantastic. I mean, if someone says, do the hero's journey arc, it's like, maybe if you're like somebody who's really, teaching storytelling, we all know the arc because we've lived it. But I don't know about you, but I need something much simpler in my head to kind of think through that I can do. All right. I hope that helps. Go tell a story today. See what kind of reaction you get. See what kind of action people take. And you might inspire someone to do it. And remember, stories need to be memorable in order to be actionable. Because if I forget it, I'm not going to do it. And that's what we're all here to do. All right, that's it for Backstage today. Go tell a story, go meet a friend, go connect, inspire, and add value. I'm going to do the same. Please invite a friend or colleague to join us on this daily pod. Be good to yourself and others, and we will check back again with you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.